Namaste. Today we will see how the India's history has been distorted. One of the unfortunate developments of the British rule in India has been that India's religious and cultural history was interpreted by European scholars, many of whom did not have a correct understanding of it. They looked upon it with prejudice and from the perspective of their Judeo-Christian beliefs, viewing the native Indians as barbaric or semi-barbaric who needed a complete cultural and religious makeover to be of any service to their colonial masters. While their work and effort led to a renewed interest in the study and research of Indian history and in other fields of Indological studies, in the process, it created many false narratives and a lot of confusion, which until this day distorts the history of India and influences the thinking of numerous scholars, both in India and abroad, who teach or study Oriental religions and philosophies. Some of the points to be noted in this context are: the European presented the Vedic faith as the faith of foreigners, who according to them were a group of warriors, that is, the Aryans, who came from outside India and subjugated the native rulers in violent conflicts. In constructing this rather mythical idea, they helped the British establish a direct historic connection with India and legitimize their rule and presence in India as a repetition of history. Second, having been accustomed to the worldview of organized prophetic religions, they regarded the faiths that were prevalent in India as independent religions, ignoring that the idea of an organized religion was not the basis of Indian faith. Accordingly, they classified the native faiths into four artificial religions, namely Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism, ignoring their underlying unity and common history, and that they would not really fit into the definition of a religion. Third, they were able to distinguish the essential features of Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism. However, when it came to other faiths which did not fit well into a coherent religious system, they had a great difficulty. Hence, they put them all into a generic category and called it Hinduism, after the name Hindu, which was historically a geographic and ethnic identity. Today, we know that creating a miscellaneous group or a class is the last thing we should do in the creation of any classification system or organized data. Fourth, In establishing the classification, the European scholars ignored the similarities that existed among various religious systems and instead focused upon their differences. The classification helped the British colonial administration to divide the native people into distinct cultural groups and cater to their special interests as part of their appeasement strategies to keep the people under their control. The European scholars ignored the reality that India had numerous and diverse social classes which would not conform to the ideal of the four Varna system as originally prescribed in the Vedas. The anomaly did not bother them as they ascribed it to a subsequent historical development without proper evidence and substantiation. Because of their limited focus, they also failed to recognize the true significance or the historicity of ancient faiths such as Shaivism, Vaishnavism, Bhagavatism, and Shaktism, and instead presented them as sectarian trends within the Vedic fold, without knowing how and why the Vedic pantheon became associated with the gods and goddesses. They also failed to note the distinct character of Indian belief systems, their complexity and essential characteristics which distinguished them from other world religions. The native faiths are not prophetic religions founded by messengers of gods and controlled by centralized theocratic authority. Unlike their Western counterparts, their leadership and propagation rests with the scholars, teacher traditions, ascetic groups, and conventional wisdom. The similarities of Indian faiths. Indian faiths are nirvanic. The Indian faiths are neither prophetic nor messianic, but nirvanic, which means their source is not a prophet or a messenger of God, but divine or spiritual knowledge transmitted through seers and sages or divine beings. Their emphasis or ultimate purpose is not heavenly life, but liberation. This is the idea of liberation, moksha or nirvana, which truly unites all Indian faiths and puts them in a class of their own in comparison to other world religions. Dharma unites them all. Another important factor which unites all Indian faiths is their allegiance to Dharma, which is believed to be eternal and continuous. Since the earliest times, the idea of Dharma has been central to all the native faiths of India. They all pursue it or practice it in their own ways. Dharma is a complex word with multiple meanings. In a very basic sense, it means moral duty, sacred law, or religious instruction. In a broader sense, it means faith or essential nature. All the current faiths of India are indeed either different aspects of one dharma. Their immediate purpose is to ensure the order and regularity of the world and peace and happiness of people through righteousness, whereas their ultimate purpose is to ensure liberation or eternal freedom from suffering and bondage to nature by following the path of righteousness. They may have many other similarities too. Liberation is not the only idea that unites the faiths. They share a wide range of common beliefs, such as karma, reincarnation, punarjanma, cyclical nature of time, a hierarchy of worlds and celestial beings, spiritual evolution of all life forms, delusion or maya as the alternate reality, detachment, sameness, renunciation, cremation, sacrifice, self-control, meditative and yogic practices, image worship, ritual worship, pantheon of gods, obedience to gurus, desire as the cause of suffering, possibility of the soul's journey into higher and lower worlds, etc. They all believe in the gradual decline of dharma and its subsequent revival, either due to the inviolable universal laws that are all at work or due to the direct intervention of their supreme deities. They have an identical code of conduct and common ethical practices as part of their allegiance to dharma. Their ideal ethical conduct is represented by more or less the same jewels of virtues such as truthfulness, non-violence, non-stealing, non-covetousness, and righteous living for self-transformation, physical and mental purity, and predominance of sattva. They caution people against the risks of ignoring dharma, dharma nirapeksha, or following the evil path of adharma, suggesting that the practice of dharma leads to virtue, enlightenment, and liberation, whereas the practice of adharma results in sin, suffering, and condemnation in the darkest hells. From the above, it is clear that the faith-based systems of India share many common features. Since they all owe their primary allegiance to dharma, they can be considered different versions of a common dharma, whose ultimate purpose is peace, happiness, order and regularity, mitigation of suffering, and liberation through righteous living. Namaste.